Marcus Kane pulled his cargo ship into Dustport Station with a tired sigh. The old freighter's engines made too much noise, and the fuel gauge showed nearly empty. He had been flying cargo runs between mining colonies for 3 years now, keeping his head down and staying out of trouble. That was how he liked it. The station looked like every other outer rim trading post, dirty, crowded, and full of desperate people trying to make a living. Marcus docked his ship at Bay 7 and checked his cargo manifest one more time. Nothing special this trip. Just medical supplies for the mining settlement on Kepler 5 and some mining equipment heading back to Earth space. He was 45 years old, with gray starting to show in his dark hair. His hands were steady and his back was straight, but his eyes held the weight of things he tried not to remember. The war on Centauri Prime had ended 8 years ago. Most days, Marcus could pretend it had never happened. The docking fees cost him 200 credits. Marcus paid without complaint and headed to the fuel depot. The station was busy today. Miners coming and going, traders haggling over prices, families heading to new worlds. Nobody paid attention to one more cargo pilot in worn work clothes. At the fuel station, Marcus met Tom Miller, an old mechanic who ran a small repair shop. Tom had kind eyes and grease under his fingernails. "Your engine sounds rough," Tom said, listening to the ship's power systems. "When did you last service the plasma injectors?" "About 6 months ago," Marcus replied. "She runs fine, just loud." Tom smiled. "Loud engines attract attention. Sometimes that's not what you want out here." Marcus nodded. He understood what Tom meant. The outer colonies had their own problems. Pirates, corrupt officials, and worse, things that thrived where Earth's government couldn't reach. After fueling up, Marcus walked to the station's main market. He needed food supplies and a new power coupling for his navigation computer. The market was crowded and noisy. Vendors sold everything from fresh fruit to illegal weapons. Marcus kept his credits hidden and his eyes open. That was when he noticed them. 3 men in dark blue uniforms stood near the market entrance. They wore the badges of station security, but something felt wrong. Marcus had spent 20 years in the Marines. He knew how real cops moved, how they watched crowds, how they carried themselves. These 3 moved like predators looking for prey. The tallest one was Captain Reed. He had cold eyes and a mean smile. His uniform was too clean for someone who actually worked security. Officer Blake stood to his left, younger, nervous, with his hand always near his weapon. The third man, Officer Torres, looked bored but alert. He chewed gum and scanned the crowd like he was shopping for victims. Marcus tried to ignore them and focus on his shopping. He bought dried food, water recycling, filters, and some basic medical supplies. The power coupling cost him 300 credits, twice what it should have, but he needed it to fly. As he walked back toward his ship, Marcus noticed the 3 officers following him. They stayed about 20 meters back, trying to look casual. Marcus had been followed by experts during the war. These men were not experts. He reached his ship and started loading supplies. The officers approached slowly, spreading out to block his exits. Marcus continued working, but his muscles tensed. His training was still there, buried under years of trying to forget. "Excuse me, pilot," Captain Reed called out. His voice was smooth but threatening. "We need to inspect your ship." Marcus turned around slowly. "Is there a problem, officer?" "Random security check," Reed said, stepping closer. "We've had reports of smuggling through this sector. Open your cargo bay." Marcus knew this was not a random check. He had seen their type before. Corrupt cops who robbed travelers and called it law enforcement. They picked targets who looked wealthy but helpless. Single pilots with nice ships and no protection. "I have all my permits," Marcus said calmly. He pulled out his data pad and showed them his cargo manifest. "Everything is legal and documented." Blake moved to Marcus's right side while Torres circled left. They were trying to surround him. Reed pretended to study the manifest, but Marcus could see he wasn't really reading it. "This doesn't look right," Reed said, handing back the data pad. "We need to search your ship and check your personal belongings. Standard procedure." "I understand," Marcus replied. "But I'm on a tight schedule. The mining station on Kepler 5 Needs these medical supplies. Reed's smile got uglier. The mining station can wait. Open the cargo bay now, or we'll arrest you for interfering with a security investigation. Marcus looked at the three men. Reed was trying to intimidate him. Blake looked excited, like he enjoyed this part of the job. Torres just looked impatient to get it over with. Marcus had two choices. He could let them rob him and hope they didn't hurt him, or he could fight back. For 3 years, he had chosen the first option whenever trouble found him. He had run away from every confrontation, telling himself he just wanted peace. But something was different today. Maybe it was Tom Miller's kindness at the fuel station. Maybe it was seeing families in the market trying to build better lives. Or maybe Marcus was just tired of running. "All right," Marcus said quietly. "You can search the ship, but I want to see your supervisor first. Station protocol requires a senior officer to authorize cargo searches." Reed's face got red. "I don't need permission from anyone. Open that cargo bay or what?" Marcus asked. His voice stayed calm, but something changed in his posture. His feet shifted slightly. His hands moved away from his sides. 20 years of military training woke up like a sleeping tiger. Blake must have sensed the change. He put his hand on his weapon and said, "Just do what we tell you, old man. This doesn't have to be hard." Torres stepped closer from the left side. "Yeah, cooperate and nobody gets hurt." Marcus looked at each of them carefully. Blake was young and probably fast, but he telegraphed his moves. Torres was bigger but moved like he had never been in a real fight. Reed thought his uniform made him dangerous, but Marcus could see he had soft hands and a soft belly. "I'll cooperate," Marcus said, "but I want this done properly. Call your supervisor." "We are the supervisors here," Reed snarled. He nodded at Blake, who started to draw his stunner. That was when Marcus moved. The years fell away like old clothes. His body remembered everything the Marines had taught him. Blake's weapon was only halfway out of its holster when Marcus grabbed his wrist and twisted. The stunner clattered across the deck. Marcus drove his elbow into Blake's solar plexus, doubling him over. Torres lunged forward, but Marcus was already turning. He caught Torres's arm and used the man's momentum to throw him into a cargo container. Torres hit the metal wall with a loud crash and slumped to the ground, holding his broken wrist. Reed tried to back away, but Marcus was faster. He grabbed Reed by the front of his uniform and slammed him against the side of his patrol vehicle. Reed's feet barely touched the ground. "Now," Marcus said quietly, "let's talk about proper procedure." The whole fight had taken less than 30 seconds. Blake was on his knees, gasping for air. Torres sat against the cargo container, cradling his wrist and moaning. Reed hung in Marcus's grip like a scarecrow. Other people in the docking bay had stopped to watch. Some were recording with their personal devices. Marcus realized that his quiet life was about to get very complicated, but for the first time in years he felt alive. Marcus stood in the docking bay, still holding Captain Reed against the patrol vehicle. Around him, at least 20 people watched, with their recording devices. The fight had lasted only seconds, but Marcus knew those seconds would change everything. He released Reed, who slumped to his knees, gasping. Blake was still on the ground, holding his stomach. Torres sat against the cargo container, his face pale from pain. None of them looked like tough security officers anymore. "Are you hurt badly?" Marcus asked Torres, checking the man's wrist. It was broken but not twisted. "You need medical attention." Torres stared at him in shock. You broke my wrist." "You drew a weapon on an innocent man," Marcus replied calmly. "You're lucky that's all I broke." More security officers arrived, running across the docking bay with weapons ready. But these were different. Cleaner. Uniforms, proper procedures, worried faces instead of predatory smiles. The real station security, not Reed's corrupt gang. Lieutenant Davis led the group. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and an honest face. Marcus had seen her around the station before, always doing her job properly. She looked at the 3 injured officers, then at Marcus, then at the crowd with their cameras. "What happened here?" she asked. "These 3 officers attempted to rob me," Marcus said simply. They threatened me with weapons when I asked for proper procedure. I defended myself. Reed tried to stand up. He's lying. We were conducting a legal search and he attacked us. Lieutenant Davis looked around at the crowd. Did anyone see what happened? We all saw it, called out a traitor named Pete. Reed and his boys were shaking down the pilot. Same thing they've been doing for months. I got it all on video, said a young woman. Want to see? Lieutenant Davis nodded. The woman played back her recording on a large screen. Everyone could see Reed threatening Marcus, Blake drawing his weapon, and Marcus defending himself with precise, controlled movements. Impressive, Lieutenant Davis said quietly. Where did you learn to fight like that? I used to be a Marine, Marcus replied. A long time ago? Lieutenant Davis called for medical teams and started arresting Reed, Blake, and Torres. Reed protested, loudly, claiming Marcus was a dangerous criminal. But the video evidence was clear, and several witnesses backed up Marcus's story. Within an hour, news of the fight spread throughout Dustport Station. People shared the video on their personal networks. Someone posted it on the Colonial newsfeed. By evening, half the Outer Rim colonies had seen footage of one man taking down 3 corrupt cops in 30 seconds. Marcus tried to keep his head down, but it was too late. His ship needed repairs from the scuffle, a damaged sensor array and a cracked cargo door seal. Tom Miller offered to fix everything in his workshop, but the parts would take 3 days to arrive. You can stay in the back room, Tom said, leading Marcus to a small apartment behind his repair shop. It's not much, but it's private. Thanks, Marcus said. I just want to finish the repairs and leave quietly. Tom smiled sadly. I don't think quiet is an option anymore, son. Word travels fast out here. People are talking about you. That evening, a woman knocked on Tom's workshop door. She was about 35 with dark hair and intelligent eyes. She carried a data pad and looked like she meant business. I'm Lisa Park, she said. I'm a journalist with the Colonial Independent Network. I'd like to talk to Marcus Kane. Marcus came out of the back room. I don't talk to reporters. I'm not here for an interview, Lisa said. I'm here because of what you did today. Reed and his partners have been robbing people for 8 months. Nobody has been able to stop them until now. I just defended myself, Marcus said. You did more than that, Lisa replied. She showed him her data pad. Look at this. The screen showed dozens of messages from station residents, miners, traders, families, workers, all talking about Marcus's fight with Reed. But they weren't just sharing the video. They were sharing their own stories. Reed took my son's college money last month, one message read. Called it a fine for carrying too much cash. Blake stole medicine from my wife, said another. She's diabetic. Almost died waiting for replacement. Drugs. Torres beat up my brother for asking questions, read a third. Broke 2 ribs and said it was resisting arrest. Marcus read message after message. Dozens of people had been robbed, threatened, or hurt by the 3 corrupt officers, but they had been too scared to fight back or report it. Why didn't they complain to Lieutenant Davis, Marcus asked. Because Reed's boss, Commander Walsh, always backed him up, Lisa explained. Walsh gets a cut of everything Reed steals. The whole security command is corrupt. Marcus handed back the data pad. That's not my problem. It became your problem when you fought back, Lisa said. Do you know what happened after you left the docking bay? Marcus shook his head. 3 families came forward to file complaints against Reed. A group of miners demanded refunds of illegal fines. 2 traders reported weapon thefts that were covered up. Your 30 seconds of courage gave them hope. Marcus sat down heavily on a work stool. He had spent 3 years avoiding exactly this kind of situation. All he wanted was to deliver his cargo and move on to the next job. There's more, Lisa continued. Commander Walsh has put out word that you're a dangerous terrorist. He's offering a reward for information about you. How much? Tom asked. 5,000 credits. Marcus laughed bitterly. Not very much for a dangerous terrorist. It gets worse, Lisa said. Walsh called Victor Kozlov about you. Marcus looked up sharply. He knew that name. Kozlov was the crime boss who ran illegal operations across 3 star systems. Drug smuggling, weapon trafficking, protection rackets. If it was illegal and profitable, Kozlov had his fingers in it. What did Walsh tell him? Marcus asked. That there's a man on the station who's bad for business. Someone who might encourage people to fight back against corruption. Tom whistled low. Kozlov doesn't like people who fight back. No, he doesn't, Lisa agreed. My sources say he's putting together a team to deal with you. Professional muscle from off-world. Marcus stood up and walked to the workshop's small window. Outside, Dustport Station looked the same as always, but he could feel eyes watching him now. People who had seen the video, people who worked for Walsh, people who wanted the reward money. How long before Kozlov's people arrive? He asked. Maybe 2 days, Lisa said. Maybe less. Marcus nodded. He had been in worse situations during the war, but back then, he had a squad of Marines to watch his back. Now he was alone, trapped on a station full of people who either wanted to use him or kill him. I have a proposition, Lisa said. Help me expose the corruption on this station. Give me an interview about what really happened today. In return, I'll help you get off-world safely. And if I say no? Then you're on your own against Kozlov's killers. Marcus looked out the window again. Somewhere in the station, Commander, Walsh was planning his next move. Somewhere else, Viktor Kozlov was sending his best people to eliminate a problem. And somewhere, ordinary people were hoping that one former Marine might give them the courage to stand up for themselves. Marcus had spent 3 years running from his past, but his past had finally caught up with him. I need to think about it, he said. Lisa nodded and left her contact information. After she was gone, Tom brought Marcus a cup of coffee and sat down across from him. You know, Tom said quietly, I was Navy once, long time ago. I know what it's like to carry weight from the old days. Marcus sipped his coffee. What would you do? Tom smiled. I'd probably run, but then again I never could fight like you. These people need someone like you, Marcus. Someone who won't back down. Outside, night was falling on Dustport Station. Marcus Kane had less than 48 hours to decide whether to run again or make his stand. Either way, Viktor Kozlov's killers were coming. Marcus didn't sleep much that night. He lay on the small cot in Tom's back room, listening to the sounds of the station. Every footstep in the corridor could be trouble. Every door that opened might bring danger. At dawn, Tom brought him coffee and bad news. 6 men arrived on the midnight transport, Tom said quietly. They're asking questions about you, offering money for information. Marcus sat up. What kind of men? The kind who carry expensive weapons and don't smile much. They're staying at the cheap hotel near Bay 12. Word is they work for Kozlov. Marcus had hoped for more time. Professional killers worked fast, but he had expected at least another day. He got dressed and checked his few possessions. A small knife, his pilot's license, and about 3,000 credits. Not much to fight a war with. There's something else, Tom said. Lisa Park was here an hour ago. She left this for you. Tom handed him a datapad. Lisa had sent a message. Commander Walsh arrested 5 people last night for conspiracy. All were people who filed complaints against Reed. This is getting worse. We need to meet. LP. Marcus cursed under his breath. Walsh was moving faster than expected, trying to silence witnesses before they could cause more trouble. The corrupt commander was scared, and scared people made dangerous mistakes. Tom, Marcus said, you need to close the shop and leave the station. This is going to get ugly. Tom laughed. Son, I've been fixing ships on this station for 15 years. I'm not running from some criminals. These aren't ordinary criminals, they're professional killers. And you're a professional killer too, Tom replied calmly. The difference is you kill to protect people. They kill for money. Marcus wanted to argue, but Tom was right. During the war, Marcus had been very good at killing. It was a skill. He had tried to forget, but skills like that never really went away. At noon, Lisa Park arrived at the workshop. She looked worried and tired. Walsh is planning something big, she said. My source in security says he's bringing in reinforcements from the other stations. He's going to declare martial law and arrest anyone who opposes him. How many reinforcements? Marcus asked. Maybe 20 officers. All loyal to Walsh? All corrupt? Marcus did the math. 20 armed men plus Kozlov's 6 killers plus whatever local help they could recruit. Against one former Marine with a knife. I should leave now, Marcus said. Take my ship and go. Your ship isn't ready, Tom said. The new parts won't arrive until tomorrow. And even if you could leave, Lisa added, they'd just hunt you down on the next station. Kozlov doesn't forget. You embarrassed his people, made them look weak. Marcus walked to the window and looked out at the docking bay. Normal people went about their daily business, loading cargo, buying supplies, saying goodbye to family. They had no idea that a war was about to start in their home. There's another option, Lisa said quietly. Marcus turned around. What option? We fight back. All of us. Together. With what army? Marcus asked. Most of these people are miners and traders. They're not soldiers. No, but they're angry. And they're tired of being robbed and beaten by corrupt cops. Your fight yesterday showed them it was possible to win. Lisa pulled out another data pad and showed him a list of names. These are people who want to help. Pete the trader has a collection of hunting rifles. Mary Kim runs the medical station. She can treat injuries. Old Doc Harrison has been patching up Walsh's victims for years. He wants revenge. Marcus counted the names. 37 people, mostly civilians with no combat training, against professional killers and corrupt security forces. They'll get slaughtered, Marcus said. Maybe, Lisa agreed. But they'll die fighting instead of living on their knees. Marcus thought about his old Marine squad. Good men who had died because he made the wrong choice at the wrong time. He had been running from that guilt for 3 years, but running hadn't made the guilt go away. What's your plan? He asked. Lisa smiled for the first time since he'd met her. We turn this station into a fortress. Use the maintenance tunnels, the cargo areas, the places where ordinary people work every day. Make Walsh and Kozlov come to us on our terms. That evening, Marcus met with Lisa's volunteers in an abandoned storage bay. They were scared but determined. Shopkeepers, mechanics, medical workers, cargo handlers. People who had never held weapons but were willing to learn. Marcus looked at their faces and saw himself 25 years ago, when he first joined the Marines. Young, untrained, but ready to fight for something bigger than themselves. I'm not going to lie to you, Marcus told them. Some of you might die. These people we're fighting are professionals. They kill for a living. So do you, said Pete the trader. And you chose to help us instead of running away. That means something. Marcus spent the next few hours teaching them basic tactics. How to move quietly through the station's corridors. How to set up ambushes in the maintenance tunnels. How to treat injuries and communicate without radios. Most importantly, he taught them that their greatest advantage was knowledge. They knew every inch of Dustport Station. They knew which doors led where, which ventilation shafts connected to what, which cargo bays had the best hiding spots. Professional killers are used to fighting on unfamiliar ground, Marcus explained. They study a target for weeks, plan every detail. But we're not giving them weeks. They have to move fast in a place they don't understand, against people who live here. At midnight, Kozlov's 6 killers made their move. They came through the main corridor toward Tom's workshop, moving in professional formation. They had night vision goggles, body armor, and military-grade weapons. They looked unstoppable. But Marcus was ready. He had turned Tom's workshop into a maze of obstacles. Cargo containers blocked the main entrance, forcing the killers to enter, single file through the side door. Motion sensors triggered bright lights that overloaded their night vision. Oil on the floor made footing treacherous. The first killer through the door slipped and fell hard, his weapon skittering away across the greasy floor. The second one got tangled in chains that Marcus had hung from the ceiling. By the time the third man entered, Marcus was already moving. The fight was fast and brutal. Marcus used every tool in the workshop as a weapon. Wrenches, cutting torches, heavy machinery. The killers were good, but they were fighting in an environment designed to confuse and separate them. When it was over, 4 of the 6 killers were unconscious. 1 had a broken arm. The last one had fled back to report to Kozlov. Marcus stood among the wreckage of Tom's workshop, breathing hard. His volunteers emerged from their hiding places, staring in amazement at the defeated killers. "Is that all of them?" Pete asked. "No," Marcus replied. "That was just the first wave. Kozlov will send more, and Walsh will use this attack as an excuse to bring in his reinforcements." Lisa helped Marcus tie up the unconscious killers. "How long do we have?" "Maybe 6 hours," Marcus said. "Then the real war starts." Outside, dawn was breaking over Dustport Station. Marcus Kane had made his choice. He wasn't running anymore. But the hardest fights were still ahead. Somewhere in the station, Commander Walsh was calling for backup. Somewhere else, Viktor Kozlov was planning his revenge. And in a few hours, the people of Dustport Station would learn whether one former Marine could teach them how to fight for their freedom. The hunt had begun. But now Marcus wasn't just the prey. Dawn brought chaos to Dustport Station. Marcus stood in the destroyed workshop, looking at the 5 captured killers tied up on the floor. 1 had escaped, which meant Kozlov would know exactly how his professional team had been defeated by 1 man. Tom surveyed the damage to his shop and shook his head. 20 years building this place up. 1 night to tear it down. "I'm sorry," Marcus said. Tom smiled grimly. "Don't be. This is the most excitement I've had since the Navy. Besides, we won." Lisa Park arrived with urgent news. "Commander Walsh just declared martial law. He's sealing the station. No ships in or out until further notice. He says there's a terrorist threat." Marcus looked out the window. Walsh's security forces were setting up checkpoints throughout the station. 20 officers in riot gear, all carrying weapons, all loyal to their corrupt commander. They move like an occupying army. "He's trapped us," Marcus said. "No one can leave. No one can call for help." "That works both ways," Lisa replied. "He can't call for more reinforcements either. And now everyone on the station knows this isn't about law and order. It's about control." She was right. Marcus could see people gathering in small groups, talking quietly, looking angry. Walsh's declaration of martial law had shown his true face. The residents of Dustport Station were starting to understand that their own security forces were the real threat. Pete, the trader, arrived with his hunting rifles and a dozen volunteers. "More people want to help," he said. "Word is spreading. Even the kids know something big is happening." Marcus gathered his growing group of volunteers in the abandoned storage bay. There were 57 people now. Mechanics, doctors, shopkeepers, cargo handlers, even a few off-duty security officers who refused to follow Walsh's orders. "We need to split into teams," Marcus explained. "Small groups that can move fast and hit targets quickly. Walsh's people are trained to fight large groups, not guerrilla warfare." He divided them into 6 teams of 8 to 10 people each. Team 1 would secure the power station. No electricity meant no security cameras or communication systems. Team 2 would take the water recycling plant. Team 3 would control the main food storage areas. "What about the other teams?" asked Mary Kim, the medical station manager. "Team 4 will rescue the people Walsh arrested," Marcus said. "They're being held in the security headquarters. Team 5 will capture the communication center. Team 6 comes with me." "Where are you going?" Lisa asked. Marcus looked at the station map on his datapad. "Kozlov is hiding somewhere on this station, probably in the abandoned mining section, level C, near the old excavation equipment. I'm going to end this before more innocent people get hurt." Doc Harrison, a gray-haired man with steady hands, raised his hand. "What if we fail?" "Then we die trying," Marcus replied simply. "But if we don't try, we'll live as slaves. I've seen what happens to people who don't fight back. It's not living, it's just surviving." The teams moved out at noon, using maintenance, tunnels and cargo passages to avoid Walsh's checkpoints. Marcus led Team 6 through the lower levels of the station, heading toward the mining section. His team included Lisa, Tom, Pete, and 3 young mechanics who knew every bolt and wire in the station's structure. They carried improvised weapons, pipe bombs made from mining explosives, Flashbang grenades built from ship flares and communication jammers assembled from spare parts. The mining section was dark and cold. Ancient excavation equipment sat covered in dust, remnants of the station's early days when it had been a working mine instead of a trading post. Perfect place for a crime boss to hide. Marcus moved carefully through the maze of old machinery. His marine training made him alert to every shadow, every sound. Behind him, his team followed quietly, trusting his experience. They found Kozlov's hideout in the old control room, a reinforced bunker that had once housed mining supervisors. Now it was full of communication equipment, weapon caches, and stolen goods from months of corruption. Kozlov himself was a big man with expensive clothes and cold eyes. He sat behind a metal desk like he was still running his criminal empire. 6 more killers surrounded him, replacements for the team Marcus had defeated. Marcus Kane, Kozlov said in a smooth voice. The famous Marine who thinks he can fight crime with his bare hands. I'm not fighting crime, Marcus replied, stepping into the room with his hands visible. I'm fighting you. Kozlov laughed. One man against my entire organization, you're either very brave or very stupid. Maybe both, Marcus said. But here's the thing about Marines. We don't fight fair. That was the signal. Tom triggered the communication jammer, cutting off all radio signals in the mining section. Pete and the mechanics detonated their improvised flashbangs, filling the room with blinding light and deafening noise. In the chaos that followed, Marcus moved like death itself. 20 years of combat experience guided his hands as he fought. 6 professional killers in the dark, using every piece of mining equipment as a weapon. The battle was fierce and personal. Kozlov's men were good, but they had never fought someone like Marcus Kane. He used the heavy machinery to crush weapons, the narrow spaces to limit their movements, and the darkness to become a ghost they couldn't catch. When the smoke cleared, 5 killers were down. The 6th one surrendered, hands raised, weapon thrown away. Kozlov sat behind his desk, bleeding from a cut on his forehead, staring at Marcus with new respect. Impressive, Kozlov said. My employer was right about you. Your employer? Marcus asked. Commander Walsh, of course. You don't think a small-time crime boss like me could afford this operation, do you? Walsh has been planning this takeover for months. I'm just the muscle. Marcus felt pieces of the puzzle clicking together. Walsh wasn't just corrupt. He was planning to take complete control of Dustport Station, turn it into his personal kingdom, with Kozlov as his enforcer. Where is Walsh now? Marcus demanded. Security headquarters, Kozlov replied. He's probably wondering why his communications went dead. Lisa's voice crackled through Marcus's radio. Marcus, we have a problem. Walsh has hostages in the main plaza. 20 civilians, including children. He says if you don't surrender in 1 hour, he starts shooting them. Marcus looked at Kozlov, who smiled coldly. My employer is a practical man. He knows you won't let innocent people die. Outside the mining section, Marcus could hear explosions and weapon fire. The other teams were fighting their battles throughout the station. Some would succeed, some might fail, but it all came down to this moment. Walsh had made it personal. He was threatening families, children, innocent people who just wanted to live their lives in peace, the same kind of people Marcus had failed to protect on Centauri Prime. Tom, Marcus said into his radio. Gather all the teams. We're going to the main plaza. That's exactly what Walsh wants, Tom replied. It's a trap. I know, Marcus said. But sometimes the only way out of a trap is to spring it yourself. Marcus looked at his captured enemies. Professional killers defeated by a Marine and a group of ordinary people who refused to give up. Then he looked at his team, shopkeepers and mechanics who had become warriors in the space of 1 day. Time to finish this, Marcus said. The final battle was about to begin. Marcus stood at the entrance to the main plaza, looking at the scene Commander Walsh had created. 20 innocent people knelt in the center of the open space, their hands tied behind their backs. Children cried quietly next to their parents. Old people sat with dignity despite their fear. Walsh stood behind them with 10 armed officers, all pointing weapons at the hostages. The corrupt commander wore full riot gear and carried a military-grade rifle. He looked like a man who had finally stopped pretending to be a peace officer. "Marcus Kane," Walsh shouted across the plaza. "Come out where I can see you. You have 5 minutes before I start killing these people." Marcus checked his radio one last time. All 6 teams were in position around the plaza. They had managed to take control of the power station, water plant, and communication center. But none of that mattered if innocent people died. "I'm going out there," Marcus told his team. "It's suicide," Tom said. "He'll shoot you the moment you step into the open." "Maybe," Marcus replied. "But he won't shoot the hostages if I'm talking to him. That gives you time to get into position." Lisa grabbed his arm. "There has to be another way." Marcus looked at her kind face and remembered why he had chosen to fight. Not for revenge, not for glory, but to protect people like Lisa who made the universe a better place. "Sometimes there isn't another way," he said. "Sometimes you just have to stand up and do what's right, even if it costs everything." Marcus walked into the plaza with his hands raised. Walsh's officers immediately aimed their weapons at him, but Walsh held up a hand to stop them from firing. "The famous Marine," Walsh called out. "You've caused me a lot of trouble." "Good," Marcus replied, still walking forward. "Trouble is what corrupt cops deserve." Walsh laughed. "Corrupt? I'm a businessman. This station was losing money under the old system. Too much crime, too little control. I'm bringing order. By robbing innocent people? By taking what I need to run things properly," Walsh corrected. "You wouldn't understand. You're just a soldier. You follow orders. I give them." Marcus stopped about 20 meters away from the hostages. He could see their faces now, scared but not broken. A little girl looked at him with trust in her eyes, believing he would save her. "Here's my order," Marcus said. "Let these people go. Fight me one-on-one. Winner takes the station." Walsh shook his head. "I don't think so. You see, I've learned something about you, Marcus Kane. You care too much about other people. It makes you weak." "Maybe," Marcus said. "But it also makes me dangerous." That was when the lights went out. Tom's team had cut power to the main plaza at exactly the right moment. Emergency lighting kicked in 3 seconds later, but those 3 seconds were enough. Marcus's volunteers had used the darkness to move into position all around the plaza. Pete and his hunters appeared on the upper walkways with their rifles. Mary Kim's medical team blocked the exits. Doc Harrison and his people surrounded Walsh's officers from behind. Every escape route was covered. "Surrender," Marcus called out. "You're surrounded." Walsh looked around wildly, realizing his trap had become a cage. "I still have the hostages," he shouted. "One move and they die." "No," said a new voice. "They don't." Lieutenant Davis stepped out from behind a cargo container. She wore her clean security uniform and carried her service weapon, but it was pointed at Walsh instead of Marcus. "Davis," Walsh snarled. "What are you doing?" "I'm your commanding officer." "You were," Davis replied calmly, "until you declared martial law without authority and took civilians hostage. That makes you a terrorist, not a commander." Behind her came 6 more security officers, the honest cops who had refused to follow Walsh's illegal orders. They moved carefully, keeping their weapons trained on Walsh's corrupt team. "You can't do this," Walsh screamed. "I run this station." "Actually," said another new voice, "I do." A woman in an expensive business suit walked into the plaza, flanked by 2 men in official uniforms. Marcus recognized the insignia, Colonial Administration Authority, the real government, not Walsh's personal kingdom. "Administrator Johnson," the woman said, introducing herself. "I arrived on the transport ship an hour ago to investigate reports of corruption. What I found was martial law, hostage-taking, and a complete breakdown of legal authority." Walsh's face went white. "You don't understand the situation here. This man is a terrorist." "This man," Administrator Johnson interrupted, "is Marcus Kane, former Marine sergeant and decorated veteran. According to the evidence I've reviewed, he defended himself against illegal robbery, then organized the civilian population to resist your coup attempt." She looked around the plaza at Marcus's volunteers, ordinary people who had stood up to corruption and won. "Quite impressive, actually," she continued. It's not often we see citizens take such effective action to preserve law and order. Walsh made one last desperate move. He grabbed the little girl who had looked at Marcus with trust, putting his weapon to her head. I'm leaving this station, he shouted. With the money I've earned, anyone tries to stop me, the girl dies. The plaza went silent. Even the children stopped crying. Everyone waited to see what would happen next. Marcus stepped forward slowly, his hand still raised. Let her go, Walsh, she's just a child. Stay back, Walsh warned. I'll do it. I know you will, Marcus said calmly, because you're exactly the kind of coward who hurts children when he can't hurt anyone else. Walsh's finger tightened on the trigger. The little girl closed her eyes. Marcus moved. 20 years of Marine training, 3 years of guilt and regret, and a lifetime of protecting innocent people came together in one perfect moment. Marcus crossed the distance between himself and Walsh. In less than 2 seconds, moving faster than anyone thought possible. Walsh fired, but Marcus was already inside his guard. The shot went wild, hitting nothing but air. Marcus disarmed Walsh with one hand and caught the falling girl with the other, rolling to absorb the impact and keep her safe. When they hit the ground, Walsh was unconscious, and the girl was crying but unhurt. Marcus held her gently until her parents ran over to take her home. The corrupt officers surrendered without another shot fired. Administrator Johnson placed Walsh under arrest for terrorism, corruption, and attempted murder. Kozlov and his surviving killers were charged as accomplices. 3 months later, Marcus stood in the same plaza, watching his first class of security trainees graduate. They were honest people from the station, mechanics, traders, families who wanted to protect their home. Lieutenant Davis had been promoted to station commander. Lisa Park had written a story about the Dustport Rebellion that was read across the galaxy. Tom Miller had rebuilt his workshop and hired 2 assistants to help with all the new business. And Marcus Kane, former Marine sergeant, had found something he thought he'd lost forever, a purpose worth fighting for. What's next? Lisa asked, joining him after the graduation ceremony. Marcus looked around at the bustling, happy station. People walked freely without fear of corrupt cops. Children played in the plaza where hostages had once knelt. Honest traders did business without paying bribes. I think I'll stay here, Marcus said. This is home now. For the first time in years, Marcus Kane was at peace. He had stopped running from his past and started building a future. And on Dustport Station, ordinary people had learned that sometimes one person with courage can change everything. The war was over. The people had won.